Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tuloyan. Let us look at that issue, that silly issue about, leg irons not being worn without protective pads. Some of these things might look small, but there's always something behind them. Look at it this way. That Malala gentleman from Correctional Services said that there had been a directive issued by the area commissioner that with effect from the 15th of July, all Kosimampuru inmates must never be allowed to put on those protective pads when they're being ferried to court. That is the way he put it. Now, in the face of opposition by defense counsels, let us not even go into the details of that because I gave you the details of that yesterday. In the face of this opposition by defense counsels on behalf of the accused, all of a sudden Baloyi consults with some of the most senior people in correctional services within no time at all. I think he also mentioned the Commissioner of Correctional Services as one of the people who had been consulted. And in no time at all, but we comes back to the court and says, no. Some kind of compromise has been reached and a decision has been taken that the accused persons be allowed to put on those protective pads on their ankles below the leg iron. It all happened so quickly. So how does correctional services work? Very interesting to see how correctional services works. I think this smacks of some kind of victimization. Because in the first place, we were never even issued with a document, a proper document. You see, when measures like that are undertaken, they are communicated by way of documentation. Malala brought nothing to the court. He just came before that court and told us whatever he told us, as coming from the area commissioner that, some prisoner had escaped that Bavians, brought to prison, and therefore all prisoners now, as a result of that, have to be ferried to court without those protective pads. Or what a nonsensical thing. Just because, those Bavian sport correctional services officers were sleeping on the job, and this man managed to slip out those protective pads out from underneath the leg irons and started literally beating them with those leg irons and then escaping, and to this day he has not been pardon my laughing, to this day he's still at large. That's a classic case of what is happening in South Africa now. When these prisoners are escorted to court, they are under such heavy guard. So this man at Bavian Sport slips out that protective shield, slips the leg irons out of his legs and started beating the correctional services officers with these leg irons and ends up escaping. It is such a laughable thing. I can't just help but laugh. This is a classic case of, correctional services officers literally sleeping on the job. I never saw this man take out those, protective pads. They never saw him sleep out the leg irons. What is that job? I mean, that is sleeping on the job. What were they doing there? These people are supposed to be so observant and so security conscious and they escort people to court and so on. But then it was as a result of that incident of, correctional services officers in Bavia and Sport, sleeping on the job, that the commission decided that no, 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 no. Because you see, this prisoners now have become too smart for my liking. One of them even slipped out those protective pads, also slipped out the leg irons out of his legs, and started beating my people with the leg irons which were supposed to restrain him, and ended up escaping. So I'm just going to come up with this directive that no, 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 they must never use those protective shields again. What a nonsensical thing. Why punish anybody for the transgressions of another? These people have always been coming to court with those protective pads on. There's never been any attempt by any one of them at escaping. In any case, the security around the Pretoria High Court is just overwhelming. They've never made any attempt to escape. Now, because some other character somewhere in private sport who was smart enough to spot correctional services officers sleeping on the job, ended up just a free man today. So these 5 accused in the MEYIWA trial, must now be made to suffer. It was a nonsensical decision to say the least. And I don't think, knowing Baloyi and how this trial has been going, I don't think there's any written directive to that effect. That is why they just backtracked out of it, because they realized that should there be an application, challenging all these measures which apparently came from the area commissioner, they would then at some stage have to produce that directive, a written document that says all these things. But I don't think there's any such document. But it was laughable, and they were smart enough to wriggle themselves out of it by saying that no, the whole thing is withdrawn. So correctional services, if correctional services, now you can rest assured that if correctional services puts in or comes up with a directive, a security directive of some sort, all that people have to do is just to resist it and call it out for being nonsensical, and correctional services will just withdraw it. That is just what they did. Well, where was the conviction behind putting that directive in place, if there was ever any such directive, such that in the face of opposition from the defense councils, the whole thing just gets withdrawn like it never existed? Strange times indeed. Strange things happen in the Zungu MEYIWA trial. Having said that, let us look forward to what unfolds this morning and see what the 2 witnesses that Baloyi is going to call look like. And I'll bring you an update later this morning just to give you a recap of the day's proceedings. Thank you for watching, and thank you for liking and subscribing. And please have a wonderful, wonderful day.